All right, today we're going to dig into Alphabet, but we're going to push past all the daily headlines and the noise to really understand what's holding the company up. We're calling this the Cloud Hyperscale Floor, and you'll see exactly what that means for one of the biggest tech giants on the planet. So, I'm sure you've seen the stories. It's all over social media, right? The narrative is that with these super powerful AI chatbots, Google's main thing, search, is basically on life support. It's this really dramatic question, and honestly, it's the only thing anyone seems to be talking about. But here's what we're going to do today. We're going to set aside all that anecdotal stuff, the screenshots of chatbot conversations that get passed around. Instead, we're going to focus on the hard data, the numbers, things like search query volume and operating margins. Because that is where the real story is hiding. And that story, the one the numbers tell, is a pretty powerful counterargument to this whole death of search narrative. In fact, you could sum up the entire argument with one absolutely massive number. And that number is $111 billion. Let that sink in for a second. That's Alphabet's net income. To give you some perspective, that makes it the single most profitable company in the entire world. Now, that doesn't exactly sound like a business that's about to fall off a cliff, does it? It sounds like a financial powerhouse. Okay, so that leads us to the big question for our investigation today. Let's just play devil's advocate. Let's imagine the worst-case scenario really happens. What if search was seriously disrupted? The question then becomes, could the other parts of Alphabet, specifically Google Cloud and YouTube, justify the company's entire value all by themselves? Well, to answer that, let's start by looking at the first pillar that's holding up this floor we're talking about, and that is the absolutely incredible rise of Google Cloud. For years, people saw this as just this huge money-burning project. But wow, has that picture changed? Just look at this trajectory. It's amazing. A few years back in 2020, Google Cloud was losing a staggering amount of money, a negative 60% operating margin. By 2022, they'd cut that loss way down to just 10%. And today, it has completely flipped. It's sitting at a positive 20% margin. It went from being this giant hole in the balance sheet to a serious profit-making machine. So let's move on to the second pillar, holding everything up. We are, of course, talking about YouTube. And it is so much more than just a place to watch videos. It's another absolutely fundamental piece of this valuation floor we're building. And this right here is the core idea, the valuation floor. Think about it. With what we've seen from Google Cloud and what we know about YouTube, even if search magically vanished tomorrow, these two businesses alone provide such a strong foundation for Alphabet's value. They're like a safety net, creating a floor that makes it really, really hard for the company's value to just collapse. But the story doesn't even stop with profits. To really get a sense of Alphabet's stability, we have to talk about its moats. And in business, a moat is exactly what it sounds like. It's a competitive advantage that protects a company from rivals, just like a moat protects a castle from attackers. And Alphabet's moat is multi-layered. First, you've got YouTube's network effect. It's a classic cycle. More creators means more viewers, which means more creators. It just feeds itself. Second, Google Cloud and Workspace have really high switching costs. Once your company is running on their systems, it is a huge pain to leave. And finally, and this is crucial, they have this massive compute advantage because of their custom TPU chips. These are specialized processors that are the engine behind their advanced AI. So when you put it all together, what's the key takeaway? It's that obsessing over the future of search, while it's interesting, means you're missing the much bigger picture. The data shows us a deeply diversified and incredibly well-defended tech giant that has multiple, really powerful engines for growth and profit. So that leaves us with one final thought. The popular story everyone's telling is search versus AI. But after looking at all this, you have to wonder, is that even the real story? Is it possible the real story is something way more complex and way more powerful? A synergistic combination of compute infrastructure, cloud services, and a world-leading content platform. That might just be the question we should all be asking.